It's time for the news mashup, where I bring you articles that I found interesting and think you might too. This is from CNN Health. Global fertility rates to plunge in decades ahead. Basically, women are standing on business right now, and hopefully these birth rates will plunge to hell. A new study projects that the global fertility rates, which have been declining in all countries since 1950, will continue to plummet to hell through the end of the century, resulting in a profound demographic shift. The fertility rate is the average number of children born to a woman in her lifetime. Globally, that number has gone from 4.84 in 1950 to 2.23 in 2021 and will continue to drop to 1.59 by 2100, according to the new analysis, which was based on the Global Burden of Diseases, Injuries, and Risk Factors Study 2021, a research effort led by the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington. The study was published Wednesday in the journal The Lancet. What we are experiencing now and have been experiencing for decades is something that we have not seen before in human history, which is a large-scale, cross-national, cross-cultural shift towards preferring and having smaller families, says Dr. Jennifer D. Shubia, a demographer and author of 8 Billion and Counting, How Sex, Death, and Migration Shape Our World, who was not involved with the new research. Dr. Christopher Murray, senior author of the study and the director of the IHME, said there are many reasons for this shift, including increased opportunities for women in education and employment and better access to contraception and reproductive health services. Dr. Gitao Mburu, a scientist in the WHO Department of Sexual and Reproductive Health and Research, who wrote a comment that was published alongside the study, said in an email to CNN that economic factors such as the direct cost of raising children, the perceived risk of death to children, and the changing values on gender equality and self-fulfillment are all forces that may contribute to the declining fertility rates. The relative contribution of these factors varies over time and by country, he added. Basically, like I said in the beginning, women are standing on business. To maintain stable population numbers, countries need a total fertility rate of 2.1 children per woman, the number called the replacement level. When the fertility rate falls below the replacement level, populations begin to shrink. The new analysis estimates that 46% of countries had a fertility rate below the replacement rate in 2021. That number will increase to 97% by 2100, meaning the population of almost all countries in the world will be declining by the end of the century. A previous analysis by the IHME published in The Lancet in 2020 predicted the world population will peak in 2064 at around 9.7 billion, then decline to 8.8 billion by 2100. Another projection by the UN World Population Prospects of 2022 predicted world population will peak at 10.4 billion in the 2080s. Regardless of the exact timing of peak world population, it will begin declining in the next few decades, Shubia said, with dramatic geopolitical, economic, and societal consequences. Although fertility rates are declining in all countries, the rate of the decline is uneven, creating a shift in the distribution of live births around the globe, according to analysis. The study predicts that the share of the world's live births in low-income regions will nearly double from 18% in 2021 to 35% in 2100. Sub-Saharan Africa alone will account for 1 in every 2 children born on the planet by 2100. This shift in distribution of live births will create a demographically divided world, where high-income countries face the consequences of an aging population and declining workforce, while low-income regions maintain a high birth rate that strains existing resources, according to the analysis. An important contribution to the study is to highlight the demographic contrast between the richest countries with very low fertility and the poorest countries with still high fertility. Dr. Teresa Castro-Martin, a professor at the Institute of Economics, Geography, and Demography of the Spanish National Research Council, who is not involved in the research, said in a statement from Science Media Center, globally, births will be increasingly concentrated in areas of the most vulnerable to climate change, resource scarcity, political instability, poverty, and infant mortality. Low fertility in high-income countries. On one end of the spectrum, high-income countries with plummeting fertility rates will experience a shift towards an aging population that will strain national health insurance, social security programs, and health care infrastructure. They will also have to contend with labor shortages, according to the study. The researchers suggest that ethical and effective policies that encourage immigration and labor innovations, like advancements in AI, could help reduce some of the economic effects of this demographic shift. The analysis also looked at the efficacy of pronatal policies that some countries have implemented, such as childcare subsidies, extended parental leave, and tax incentives. The projections show an effect size of no more than zero point 0.2 additional live births per female if pronatal policies are implemented, which does not suggest a strong, sustained rebound, according to the study. Although policies supporting parents may be beneficial to society for other reasons, they do not seem to change the trajectory of the current demographic shift, Murray said. The researchers emphasized that low fertility rates and modest effects of pronatal policies should not be used to justify measures to coerce women into having more children, such as limiting reproductive rights and restricting access to birth control. There is a real threat in some governments trying to pressure women to have more children. It's very easy to go from encouraging women to have more children to being a little bit more coercive. That's an understatement. A shrinking population poses great economic and societal challenges, but it also has environmental benefits. A smaller global population could elevate strain on global resources and reduce carbon emissions. However, increasing consumption per capita due to economic development could offset these gains. This is obviously a long article. More births on the low-income countries. On the other end of the spectrum, more live births in low-income countries will threaten the security of food, water, and other resources and will make improving child mortality even more difficult. Political instability and security issues may also arise in these vulnerable areas, the analysis predicts. The predictions show that improving access to modern contraceptives and female education, two primary drivers of fertility, will reduce fertility rate and limit the increase of live births in low-income areas. In sub-Saharan Africa, universal female education or universal contraceptive access by 2030 would result in a fertility rate of about 2.3 in 2050, compared with 2.7 in the reference scenario, according to the study. Additionally, these changes would contribute to women's empowerment, which has important societal benefits, the study says. Alternative scenarios for the future. The main strain comes from our inability to adjust, Shubia said. How do we adjust to what we have? I think that is where we really lack innovation and political will. Shubia said she thinks about three alternative approaches that society can take to adapt to a shrinking, aging global population. One scenario is the status quo world, where we go about our business as usual, maintain economic policies that rely on continued population growth, and perhaps implement a few pronatal policies that don't make much of a difference. This will not solve any of the economic and societal problems that this study outlined. The second scenario is a fearful world in which fear-mongering and alarmism take over and women are coerced into having more children. And the final scenario is a resilient world where we realize that we are not going to shift the number of children people have, but instead learn to adapt our systems to the new reality. Studies like this one that model and predict global demographic changes are important, Shubia says, but because they can inform proactive planning for a resilient future. However, projections should always be interpreted with caution, she said. It is most helpful to look at the overall trends instead of specific details. The most useful thing is to zoom out and say, there's no doubt there has been a shift. It's changing, so what do we do? They should listen to women. Women are not going to have babies right now because the patriarchy is overbearing and wants to restrict women, and women are pushing back. I love this. I love that they're talking about it, but they still haven't brought in the component that women are opting out on purpose because men are not participating in the child rearing and participating in the household. Anyways, jump in the comments. Let me know what you think about this one. So here we have a colored American Christo fascist that's trying to strip women's rights. He is strongly against abortion, even though his then girlfriend, now wife, had one when they were back in college, and he cannot stand feminism. Let's talk about Mark Robinson, who I have talked about on my pages before. Anti-Trump Republicans in North Carolina feel alienated by Mark Robinson. And you know what? I hope they feel it. I hope they feel it very strongly in their gut. I hope they feel it. Ex-Republican Phoebe Robertson, 75, said she can't stand former President Donald Trump and voted against him. North Carolina GOP primary earlier this month. Okay, so Phoebe voted against Donald Trump. She also cast a ballot against Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, the incendiary Republican gubernatorial candidate who received Trump's endorsement ahead of the primary. I feel like the far right has just stolen my Republican Party and I can't identify with it anymore. Now an independent and resident of the state capitol for about 40 years. Robinson has reignited intense backlash for his history of comments ranging from support of anti Semitic conspiracy theories to lambasting school shooting victims. Now, back in the day when I was just on Facebook, I said that Trumpism was going to be the cause of the Republicans going the way of the dodo bird, and I am glad to say that I have been correct in my prediction. I hope they go the way of the dodo bird because they deserve it. Robinson previously made remarks calling homosexuality and transgenderism filth and claiming that so many freedoms were lost during the civil rights movement. Okay, that helped him, but okay, never mind. Never mind. Even though he is a colored Christo fascist. Okay. North Carolina stands to play a pivotal role in 2024 and potentially decide the presidency for either party. Trump carried the state in the last two presidential elections by slim margins, and voters and political analysts USA Today spoke with said Robinson's inflammatory persona could stand to isolate even more voters like Robertson from voting red. I hope so. Justin Bradford, 47, of Pinehurst, North Carolina, said he used to be a straight ticket voter for the GOP, a self described unaffiliated, fiscally conservative moderate who prefers limited government. Bradford became more of a mixed voter around the time that former President George Bush's second campaign. He said he switched his party registration to unaffiliated and voted for former President Barack Obama in 2012. Still, he said the Republican Party hadn't really turned the corner yet. I feel like 2016 was the year that the mask came off. Bradford, like Robertson, voted in the state primary for former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, who has since suspended her campaign. He said he sees only an escalation of violence since Trump took office and politicians like Robinson rose to prominence. That corner was turned and it's like a Pandora's box now. To many, Robinson's remarks and demeanor are reminiscent of the former president, according to research by Progress NC Action, a liberal-leaning advocacy organization working with other progressive coalitions in the state. Spoiled, angry, know-it-all children are trying to tell law-abiding adults that we must give up our constitutional rights to our own certain weapons, Robinson wrote in 2018 on a Facebook post about student survivors of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting in Parkland, Florida. For voters who are anti-Trump, they listen to the things that Robinson says, and the connection was immediate to them. They're like, oh, this is another Trump, said Pia Nargundardkar. Please forgive me. Messaging director for the Research and Communications Group. Robinson first gained attention with his fervent defense of gun rights at Greensboro City Council meeting in 2018. He was elected North Carolina's first Black lieutenant governor in 2020. Mike Lonergan, communications director for Robinson's gubernatorial campaign, said the lieutenant governor and his comments are being taken out of context. There is no low to which Democrats will not snoop to smear Mark Robinson, Lonergan said in a statement to the USA Today. But Bradford said Robinson is stoking hate in a state grappling with its Confederate history and pockets of deep-seated bigotry. When you have ideologues like Mark Robinson, like Trump, and they're saying, we're going to go down to the Capitol and we're going to fight like hell, or you're calling people filth, Bradford said, some people are going to get the idea that you can now commit an act against another person and it's sanctioned by this leader, so to speak. The road to the presidency, why eyes are on North Carolina. Robinson easily secured his spot on the November's ballot, defeating two challengers in the Republican primary, including runner-up and State Treasurer Dale Folwell by more than 40 points. In the general election, Robinson faces Stein, North Carolina's Attorney General, who likewise sailed to victory in the Democratic primary. Their race is expected to be one of the country's most competitive gubernatorial races this year. The stakes are also high at the top of the ballot in North Carolina. Democrats have eyed the Tar Heel state since Obama won there in 2008, and the shifting demographics hinted at the possibility of a turning tide blue. But minus Obama's one exception, Republican presidential candidates have kept a firm hold on North Carolina for almost 50 years. Still, Democratic Governor Roy Cooper told USA Today that he believes the road to the presidency goes through his state. And I believe we can win this state for President Joe Biden. When you look at the momentum that's occurring right now, and you look at how outrageous Donald Trump has become what? He has been. Okay, even more so since his presidency. Trump won North Carolina in both 2016 and 2020, though his margin of victory was much narrower, just over 1 percentage point in the latter. This has some on the left suggesting his popularity may be slipping with the Tar Heel constituency. He's narcissistic, bombastic. Roberson, the Raleigh moderate, said of the former president, I voted for him the first time, but he proved his way along between 2016 and 2020. Nope, I changed my party affiliation. One issue pulling voters, including more moderate conservatives, out of Robinson and Trump's corner is abortion, Nargunderker said. Please forgive me, I said, please. This is an issue that is concerning to independent voters, it's concerning to Republican women, and it's concerning to Black voters. North Carolina lawmakers passed a new 12-week abortion limit with some exceptions last summer. A Meredith College poll in September found North Carolinians nearly split on the change, with 47% approving the law and 45% disapproving. A January survey by Public Policy Polling, affiliated with the Democratic Party, found a greater share of North Carolinians, 42%, would prefer a governor that protects abortion rights versus 35% who prefer their governor restrict access to the procedure. Robinson, who is a hypocrite, has in the past signaled that he would support a total ban on abortion. For me, there is no compromise on abortion except if it's for him and his then girlfriend. He told a Baptist church congregation during his 2020 lieutenant governor campaign, it makes no difference to me why or how that child ended up in the womb, meaning that if she is raped, he does not care, but he only cares when it is him, and I'm going to keep hammering that he is a hypocrite. As a gubernatorial candidate, Robinson has attempted to soften language around his stance. His campaign said that as governor, Robinson would support legislation limiting abortion after a heartbeat is detected, often 6 weeks, with some exception for rape, incest, or life of the mother. Maybe we'll consider the life. Bradford said he's thinking about his 18-year-old daughter in both the gubernatorial and the presidential election. I have some genuine concerns for my daughter for the kind of world she's going to operate in as an adult. I don't want to be super dire about things, but I'm a little bit freaked out right now. As he should be, because we are moving towards Gilead with these Christo-fascists at the helm and Project 2025 and hypocrites that are perfectly fine with stripping your rights even though they had them. Jump in the comments. Let me know what you think about this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. I was tagged in this post on Instagram. This is atrocious, and this is the reason why I'm so supportive of women's reproductive rights, because I know that everybody should not be having children. Everybody literally should not. And this is one of the reasons why. This woman left a baby alone for 10 days. This is that poor baby that could not fend for herself, and now she's gone because this woman needed a break. I understand needing a break. I am a mom, but like I said, there is a reason why not everybody should be a mother, because when they are babies, if you do not have any familial support, you may not get a break. I'm sorry, but that is just the way life is right now, but that is also why I will continue to be for women having reproductive rights, because not everybody needs to be a mother. Not everybody deserves to be a father. Okay, now for the news article. An Ohio toddler died after her mom left her alone while she took a 10-day vacation. A judge called it the ultimate act of betrayal. Jalen's cries echoed through the quiet streets of Cleveland in the dead of night. A toddler whimpered and howled, but no one came to her rescue. Her mother, Kristen Candelario, was away on a 10-day summer vacation and had left Jalen alone in a playpen with a few bottles of milk, prosecutors said. A neighbor's doorbell camera captured the 16-month-old's frequent screams, including one around 1 a.m., 2 days after her mother left. But Candelario was hundreds of miles away in Puerto Rico with a male friend, authorities said. After a few days at the beach and another stop in Detroit, she returned home on June 16th last year to find her daughter dead. She had been gone for about 10 days. I'm so mad, y'all. I'm so mad about this story. This is an actual what the actual F type of story. Candelario pleaded guilty last month to one count of aggravated murder and one count of child endangering. At her sentencing Monday, forensic pathologist Elizabeth Mooney told a Cleveland courtroom that children experience the most extreme separation anxiety between 9 and 18 months. She recounted Jalen's excruciating final days. The pain and suffering she endured lasted not only hours, not days, but possibly even a week, Mooney said, fighting back tears. This feeling of abandonment for days on end, coupled with the pain of starvation and extreme thirst, is a type of suffering I don't think any of us could fully fathom. The toddler was found dehydrated and emaciated. A judge sentenced Candelario on Monday to life in prison, marking a final chapter in a case so grim investigators involved described it as the most horrific thing they've witnessed in their careers. The most horrific. Law enforcement officials, including Cleveland Police Sergeant Teresa Gomez, fought back tears as she described the baby's condition. This is a case that we'll have branded in our minds and in our hearts forever, Gomez said at the sentencing. Assistant Cuyahoga County Prosecutor Anna Faraglia played a security video of the mother hauling her suitcase to a car on June 6th and returning home on June 16th. Minutes after she returned, Candelario called 911. Please, I need help, she wailed in a 911 call played during the sentencing. Please, please help me. My daughter is dying. Candelario had dressed Jalen in a clean outfit before emergency responders arrived, the prosecutor said, but the change of clothes did not hide the horrors the girl had gone through. And Candelario's sob story started unraveling. Berglia said Jalen was found lying in a mattress covered in urine and feces. Animals take care of their infants better, she said. The girl was emaciated with sunken eyes, dry lips, and fecal matter in her mouth and fingernails. She weighed 7 pounds less than when she had at her last doctor visit 2 months earlier. Investigators said Candelario had left Jalen alone again for 2 days just before she went on vacation. Her parents blamed her actions on mental health struggles. Candelario's parents pleaded with the judge for mercy. In a prepared statement, her mother, Ketty Torres, said her daughter had battled with health struggles, including mental health illness and fainting spells. When her daughter stopped taking medication and worsened her depression and anxiety and contributed to her inability to make sound decisions. Well, why didn't you take your granddaughter away from that woman? Torres said the family was not aware of what was happening. Candelario told the court she prays daily for forgiveness, adding that she believes God and Jalen have forgiven her. I am not trying to justify my actions, but nobody knew how much I was suffering and what I was going through. Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court Judge Braden Sheehan admonished her as he handed down the sentence. Speaking sternly, he said Candelario left her child trapped in a tiny prison for days while she was out having a good time. The bond between a mother and a child is one of the most purest and most sacred bonds. It's a relationship built on love and trust and unwavering protection. You committed the ultimate act of betrayal. That little baby persevered, waiting for someone to save her, and you could have done that with a simple phone call. Instead, I see photos of you on a beach while your child was eating her own feces in an attempt to survive. The judge sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Just as you didn't let Jalen out of her confinement until you died, so too you should you spend the rest of your life in a cell without freedom. The only difference is that prison will at least feed you. At the sentencing, lead detective TJ Powell said Jalen will never be forgotten. His voice quivered as he read the poem he wrote to her. In her memory. J is for the justice that will be received today. A is for the angel wings she earned on that dreadful day. I is for the incremental repetition buildup of suspense for a death that clearly makes no sense. L is for the lack of love while alone for 11 days. Y is for the young life that was taken away. N is for new eternal life Jalen gained on that day. No child should ever have to die this way. Absolutely. As a mom, I know how hard it is to be a mom. I get it. I get that sleep deprivation. I get needing a break, but I do not get just the depravity of leaving your child alone for days, not even a couple of minutes to escape, but days. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And this is why, like I keep saying, I am pro life. I would rather a woman choose to not have a baby than to leave a baby like this, to abuse a baby, to be unsupportive and unloving and abusive, because no human that is born on this side of the birth canal should feel this type of pain. Y'all jump in the comments and let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.